let me just go ahead. So I hope everybody had a nice week off. Let's see if Scott comes in, or maybe not. Did everybody do the worksheet? And did everybody read through the thing that I sent, the section from the Klingon dictionary that yeah, cool. And then y'all did, y'all may or may not have started journaling. You have, let's put it this way, you have started journaling at different at different levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I find it to be really useful because that's the way that like I think interact the most with the language, but that might just be me. But I think it's really useful because then on top of you being able to interact with the language and like actually write things down that you might not write down otherwise or say otherwise, you're using a bunch of familiar vocabulary. So until the day I die, I will not forget the Klingon words for to see, to watch, to sit, to go. These are thoroughly ingrained in my mind, right? You get really used to some familiar suffixes, especially when you're talking about like, what did I do today? So you talk, you got j, of course, but then you got vi, mu, things that are related with the things that are really important prefix-wise, relating back to yourself, which is, those are the most important ones when you're having a conversation with somebody, right? Because you want to talk about yourself a lot, right? Because that's what humans do. So anyway, I think journaling is really important, but just like with memorize, I won't shove it down your throats. It's just there for there's a suggestion. Okay, let's go through. I'm gonna share my screen. Boop, boop. Here. How do I share my screen? There we go. Woohoo! Okay, okay. So, almost lamp. So, did anybody have any trouble with telling the time section on this? Have y'all been practicing telling the time since our last? No, no. Okay. Oh, do you want to say this time for me aloud?
Should I begin with cash? Javak, Wedgemach, Shot.
Yeah, good. Rightly.
Yeah. Would that just be pach rep?
Yeah, pach rep. Yeah, it's a really easy one. Let me give you another one.
Okay.
Listen.
Goed. Wat mag var rep?
Yeah. Goed wat, right? Goed wat.
Goed wat.
Yeah. Just whenever you see the colon in between, the hour and the minute, just think to yourself, watch.
Remember, there's something else missing.
Yeah. Tiago, can you tell me how to say, I quickly ate gach on Friday at 7 p.m.?
Yeah. This one, I was very close to your response sheet. This one was not like so easy for me at the beginning, yeah. But okay. Boekjaj, wat mag, goed vak hebt. Non, Kar Bishop.
Maj krap. Ja. Boek judge wat mag goed wat rep nom kar bishop. Maj. Khebo. You were born in 1984. I don't know if you were, but
Almost. 1982, almost.
oh really? Oh wow.
Okay. I will have to do this homework right now as we're speaking, actually. I usually have done all the other homeworks, but just 2 weeks were horrible. I haven't done anything. But yeah, I'll try. 1984, which was Shadow. Yeah, all right. Yeah, the years were just number. So it will be, oh yeah, and born. God, it was something where blah blah years ago. Oh, I don't remember. I can try to say 1984. It was I mean, it was just what hot chorv losh, and then born it was
Borg.
bol.
That's born.
I think I didn't.
So remember in Klingon when you're talking about year, say dish, so year, and then you say the number. So
dish what hot chorv losh.
and then
How was born was bol.
Borg. Yeah, Boch.
Bogh. Okay. So dish what hot chorv losh. Gibor.
But you were born.
Gibor.
Did.
You were born. Yeah, right. Gibor. Oh,
Yeah. And then typically when you say was born in Klingon, we're going to talk about the aspect suffixes today, but typically when you say somebody was born, it's pu. So
Bibor.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Is the pu always necessary?
I think it's kind of strange not to say the pu. I think it's a little, yeah, I mean, if I can remember correctly, I'm not a great person when it comes to remembering canonical phrases, but I think we've always seen the pu on bol when we're talking about I was born in Hamana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say just getting the habit of saying that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. How would you say 1066?
Dish wat par jav.
Yeah, cool. And Tiago, can you tell me how to say October Halloween?
Jar wat mag wedge mag what? But yeah.
Right. So jar wat mag wat judge.
Judge.
And then
Wedge mag.
And then remember, some speakers, they will say judge wedge mag wat. So say number 31. But others are in another camp where they add a ditch onto the number. So let's say the 31st day of October. Yeah, cool. Super duper. Let me check.
Who has this sound? It's like kitchen or something. Who is it?
Not me.
I think it's me. Sorry for that.
Yeah, Scott has not responded. That's okay.
I'm not alone in the room. So sorry for that.
That's okay. Yay! Caitlin has joined us.
I am so sorry. My
okay.
schedule listed is 2:30 instead of 2, and then I'm like, this really doesn't seem right.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Ah,
We were just going through the homework. Have you been continuing to do your journal, Caitlin? I know you have done quite a bit of it.
yes, they're not very complex entries,
Okay.
but I usually get like 3 to 5 sentences a day in.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, keep on doing that. And I'm sorry, I know you sent them to me, and I still have not. I've been meaning to go through them, so I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. So what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Okay. So today, let's talk about the syntactic stuff, the syntactic markers. So these are type 9 verb suffixes, and they're also, in my opinion, the coolest verb suffixes. I know I just unshared my screen with y'all, but I'm gonna share the screen again. Okay, so the section is 4.29, and we got these syntactic markers. So in English, we have words like when, if, before, because, and in Klingon, because it's an agglutinating language, all of these are just built into suffixes. So, instead of when or as soon as, we get de, chur for if, pa before, vish, while, mech for the interrogative suffix, right? What else we got? We got the wit, but we already talked about that. Okay. We got these cool little suffixes here. And they are going to allow you to say so many things that would not seem expressible in Klingon if we didn't have them. They're really cool suffixes. And let's start with ge, which means Chiago.
When?
Yeah, as soon as.
Why? When?
So the word for jach is to, or the word for jach is to go. The word for to go is jach. Let's say jach load, man goes, or a man goes, or a man went, or a man to go. So add a dit, it becomes jach dit load. So when the man goes, all of a sudden we've got this other thing that we need to say. Jach ja. So when the man goes, I will go too. And the cool thing about this is, so far we've noticed that sometimes Klingon can be a little inflexible, right? But we can say things like this. Jach ja, jach dit load. In this case, I probably would lean towards saying jach dit load, jach ja, but it still makes sense to say jach ja, jach dit load. And this comma is not necessary, but it helps to show that the two are separate. Right? Ew, kiddo. That's pretty straightforward, right? And as it is a type 9 suffix, that it's going to come after really everything else. And rovers even can't really go after them. So like, jach dit bet load is not a grammatical sentence, right? You could say jach bet dit load when the man doesn't go, but you couldn't put a rover after the syntactic marker.
Is that for any syntactic marker or just dit?
Yeah, it's pretty much for all of the syntactic markers. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So if you wanted to say something like, you know, I won't go if he goes, or not while he goes.
Well, you said while, which is a different suffix that
True.
we can get into right after this one.
Okay.
Do you have a sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good. I'm trying to think of anything that wouldn't be grammatically awkward, and I'm struggling, and it might be the coffee, but it also might be just because it's so rare as to not be an issue. So never mind.
There we go. There we go. This is a has every single one of the verb suffixes on it. So it is.
Yeah, the rover.
There we go. There is no rover. You're right. So there we go. We got a rover. So majach chuk choch mochlach bej pupbet neshde. So when we have completed definitely not being able, or when we have completed being able, when we have not completed definitely being able to make each other start to go. I don't know. I'll get mad. Doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, but so occasionally but anyway, so you see at the end, the dit will always come right there. Oh, and I forgot the your honor part. We haven't gotten to this, but maybe we can get to that today if we have time. So Vish, we brought up Vish, which Caitlin means
While.
Yeah, while. And this is a really important suffix because you'll find that you'll see this in a really common phrase. It's kashtach vish. So kash means what?
Occurring.
Yeah, happen, occur. So what kashtachvish really means, kashtachvish means while it is happening. But really often it's used to mean like while or as that, or as that happens, while that's ongoing, right, etc. So for example, kashtachvish, or during is another good way to translate it, during. So for example, kashtachvish kashtamuch turmek vivuj kangba. So during, right, during, while it is happening, kashtamuch, the movie, turmek, urine, vivuj kangba, I am not willing to exile or to expel urine. I'm not willing to go take a pee during the movie, right? You could say this if you were in a movie theater and somebody really needed to go and somebody was like, just go already. You say, right? So this is a really important phrase to know. So if you don't know it already, go ahead and note it, write it down in your notes, because of all of the phrases that you can make with tachvish, this is by far the most important one. So yeah. One really weird thing about vish is that it always comes with this other suffix, tach, which is an aspect suffix that means ongoing, continuously. There is an instance where there's this saying in the Klingon way, and it's just a set saying where vish exists without the tach, but this is a weird one. So it's kamvish cher haklaut torvish yin push. And there's, so the translation for this is, it is better to die while standing than to live while kneeling. And this is weird for a couple of different reasons. First off, usually this construction right here is reserved for nouns, whereas this is a phrase that's being used. So that's a little odd. And then on top of that, there's no tach. So it might be at some point in a fictional Klingon universe where Klingon actually is a natural language, that vish used to be able to use it on its own and didn't need tach, but now you do. So remember, try to think of it as tach vish rather than just vish. That'll help you to make sure that you're always including it. And so this is, you'll probably use this for a lot of things that you might not think to use it for in English or German or Portuguese or whatever, because Klingon doesn't have, you know, these conjunctions or prepositions that help you to sort of place things. You could, you know, for example, Thiago, you had a sentence earlier where you weren't sure how to say it, and I can't remember. I can't remember what the phrase was, but you were trying to say that you couldn't name things in Klingon while you were seeing them, or as you were seeing them. So, you know, in that instance, that's a perfect example of where you can use tachrish, right? So, Vrengda yit tachrish, as I walk in the city. Dochme leerboor beponglachda. Yeah. Or edge can hold velo tachrish. Right, so you can even say, as I'm walking in the city, this is a clause, edge, and Klingon hol velo tachrish, I'm using Klingon, Dochme, the things, Vilerbor, we're going to get into Bor as well. Viponglachba, I can't name the things that I see, which I see. We're going to get into that. Okay. Cool. Any questions on Vish? Nope. Let me check that Scott has not tried to get in. If he has, try to figure it out. Nope, no message that I can see. Okay, cool. Okay, chur. Right, Lit, can you tell us what chur means?
If.
If. Really cool. It's a really awesome suffix. This set phrase, if you do not buy, then therefore you die. Buy or die. So chur, it's just, you know, it's if you're proposing a situation, a hypothetical situation, and then it's usually followed or preceded by what, you know, the consequence of that is. So Klingon hol bo chad kuchur shibitcha jashwit po omoj. So Klingon hol bo yalta it chad kuchur. Sure, if you study Klingon a lot, eventually, Joshwit, Po, advanced speakers, Bomoj, you shall become. No. Now, there is this thing where we have Vaj. So in English, you can say, if you study Klingon a lot, then Vaj, you'll become advanced speakers eventually. Or you can just say, if you study Klingon a lot, you will become advanced speakers. It's the same in Klingon. So you can add that Vaj or not, but the Vaj helps to introduce the consequence. Some people insist that the Vaj is always necessary, but I don't think it is. I think there are canonical sentences to back up the idea that it's not necessary, but Vaj does help like clarify. All right. Any questions on chul? All right. Pa. Pa. Which means?
Before.
Before. And again, this word kash, to happen to occur, is going to come in handy a lot. So kash pa. Kash pa. Watmach loshvat rep mahom bet. Before it happens, 1400 hours, we don't meet. Mahom bet. So we don't meet before 1400 hours, 2 p.m., which is true. We don't. Right? Jach pat lod, jach jich. Before the man goes, I will go. Let me get my computer charging here. Sorry, my computer charger is all the way over here.
And the jich in this case is an emphasis rather than necessary.
Yeah, before the man goes, I will go, right? Yeah, good to point that out. Thank you. Cool. Any questions on pa? Cool. Borg. The class, what Borg means.
Which?
Yeah, which, it can also mean
That?
that, who, which, yeah, things of this nature. So it's in English we have these pronouns, right? These relative pronouns that can that sort of create a clause within a clause. So I know the man who ate gach. I don't know. Come up with weird sentences. I know. So the real sentence here is I know the man, right? So in Klingon that would be lod vishov. All right. So in Klingon, this who here, that's actually going to be this prefix, or sorry, the suffix that goes on the verb. So what's the verb in this second phrase we have going on over here?
Shop.
Yeah, shop. So ate, right? Eat. So we're going to place that on there, right? And what is the man eating? What did the man eat?
Chach.
Right? And where does kach go in the grammatically in the sentence? If I were just to say lod, the man ate gach, the regular sentence, what would it be?
Ka shop lod.
Kach shop lod. So once we put this boach on there, it's the exact same thing.
But not on the substantive.
Oh, sorry. I meant to put it on there. So yeah, so this suffix boach goes on the verb, right? So now we have this phrase that can exist. It's a fragment on its own, but if you were to say kach shop boach lod, you're no longer just saying the man ate gach. You're saying the man who ate gach. And what are we talking about? I know the man who ate gach. Oh, okay. So lod b'shov. There you go. So the whole phrase translated into Klingon is kar shopbor lod b'shov. Can anybody point out what problem with clarity we might be having in this sentence?
It could also be interpreted as the man who. Oh wait, no, mind. I missed.
You could also
Or,
be interpreted as, yeah, you're on the right.
or I know the gach that eats.
I know the gach that the man ate.
Yeah.
You were friends with that gach, which you probably, it depends on the context.
I mean, it is alive, right? So it's not inconceivable.
Hopefully.
Just thinking about thinking beyond, just like knowing the person, knowing gach as like a friend, like somebody might be asking me like what kind of gach he was eating. So you could say, oh, kar shopbor lod b'shov. I know the type, or I know the gach. So does anybody have a guess on how we might clarify what we're talking about? Who's the subject of this wonky phrase here?
I was going to suggest you could put that Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So if you wanted to make sure that the person knew you're talking about the man that you know and not the gach that the man ate, then you can add the et onto lod. If you want to talk about the kar, same exact thing, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Or you can leave it like this and leave it, ambiguous, either because you don't want to say the et or because it's clear what you're talking about and it's just not necessary. Usually in writing, it's going to be better to use the et. And even in spoken word too, it's good. It's never a bad thing to put the at on there, but it can be confusing not to. Does that make sense to everybody? Bor is making sense. Cool. That's usually the one that people have like the most problems getting to use. I think I would say use it sparingly, right? Because English and I can say from my own experience, French love subordinate clauses and relative clauses, and Klingon does not. So try to use this less than you think you should, and then as you get more used to it, you can employ it more often. I think that's a good general rule. That's also a good general rule for the next suffix we should talk about, which is rach. Woohoo, rach. Did we already discuss rach before?
No, I don't think so.
No. Well, anyway, like wit, it is the suffix that is used to make a noun out of a verb, right? So with wit, it's really simple. You got pet, right? Which means to run. So pet wit.
Runner.
Yit wit.
Walker.
Yit wit.
The White Walker.
White Walker.
I'm reading ones right now, so I'm really into that.
What's that? What's a White Walker?
Translate that.
I'm sorry?
Go and translate that.
What's a White Walker?
Oh, it's like a zombie.
Oh yeah, like I was thinking Walker, but like
They're like
oh yeah.
they're like ice zombies. By the way, there is a canonical way to say zombie, and it is yinbor lom. So it uses that this bor that we just covered, right? So yin is to live, bor is the syntactic suffix that means which or that or who. Lom means a corpse. So it is literally a living corpse. Is the way so rach is glossed as a nominalizer, which it most certainly is. but the mistake that a lot of people do, especially starting out in Klingon, is that they like to overuse. They like to overuse rach. So let me read off to you what Bochwit has to say about this. This suffix is not generally used on a verb without another suffix. So typically, you're going to have, if you wanted to say a going, jachrach is not the way to say it. Typically, you're going to put another suffix on here. It's like, for example, the word for recommendation is a nod ka. So nod means to commend or to praise. Ka is again, and then rach. So it literally means, it means something like the event of being recommended.
So sorry. So what is Rach? I mean, I see it's a nominalizer, but it wasn't actually covered in the oh my god,
the section, yeah, it's in the addendum. It's in the addendum. Yeah, don't forget to check out the addendum.
addendum.
Yes. But the back, it's the bit at the back. I think Borg is also in the addendum.
So, but what does Rach mean then? Because it's a nominalizer.
So like wit, right? It takes a verb and then it makes it into a noun.
Oh, okay.
Meaning like the event of something. And that's a really good way to think of it, because oftentimes that'll help you gauge to what degree, until you're used to it, it'll help you gauge to what degree what you're saying is odd. So something like jachrach is odd because it's the event of going. That sounds as awkward in Klingon, jachrach, as it does as the event of going does in English. It's not ungrammatical, say, it's just bad Klingon. Like it's not stylistically sound. It sounds really Englishy is what it sounds like. All right, the general rule with rach is use it sparingly. So don't use it a lot. There are some set expressions that have rach in them. Go ahead and use those. Like lotlach rach means value. Lotlach bet rach means worthlessness. And if you do use it, go ahead and use it with a verb suffix, right? So we got nad kat rach, jach kat rach, a going again. That's a better word in Klingon than jachrach, right? But the reason why it's preferable that you don't use rach is because it's really better to get away from thinking of some things as nouns and start thinking of them as actions, as verbs, right? So instead of saying comings and goings, think about like, what does that actually mean, and what does it mean in the context? So like, if you want to say, I wonder about her comings and goings, think about like, what does that actually mean? You could think of it as, you could use Borg, Dak Schuchborg Beshiv. I wonder about the places he, she, or it, or whatever they go, they visit. I wonder about them. Let's think. Or you could say Rochdaj Beshiv. I wonder about their destinations or their destination, right? Yeah, and the best way to translate this is ness, like happiness or whatever, or shun, right? Or event of. And there's a whole TED article about rach if you want to know more about it. I also recommend Captain Crankor, who is one of the first Klingon speakers. He's the first fluent Klingon speaker. He wrote a book called From the Grammarian's Desk, and it covers a bunch of. It's basically a collection of a bunch of articles he wrote on speculating about Klingon grammar. It's a bit dated because it's from there are these articles from the early 2000s and the late 90s, I think. And we've had more information on some of the things that he talks about in the book since, but it's still good. And one of the reasons why I think it's still good is because of his article on Rach. So yeah, I'm not going to keep on rambling. Any questions on Rach? I'm sure.
I have one question about it. So when it comes to like using suffixes, I'm assuming that also applies to stative verbs. So for example, I've translated beauty as a noun to ich gerach. But I mean, that was a while ago when I was using that. I don't really know how you would use a suffix in that instance to achieve that.
Don't say beauty. Say, rephrase how you're thinking of it. Because you're not gonna, because that Klingon doesn't really have a word for beauty as a noun. It just has the stative verb ich.
Right.
You could have rach, but that's kind of weird. It's not. I wouldn't translate it as beauty. I would translate it as the event of being beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. And also the other thing is there's no other suffix on here.
Right, which I can't really think of a suffix to put on there anyways.
Yeah. Some people have like they some people kind of cheat and they write ich tach rach. It's very transparent what you're doing when you put the tach in there, because it kind of doesn't add all that much information to what you're saying. It just, the event of being continuously handsome or beautiful, it doesn't makes it's less ugly to look at, but it's not great Klingon that you're speaking there. If you say ich tachrach for beauty, like, if that's a set phrase that you use to say beauty, that's not good. So don't use rach. is basically what this part of the lesson is. Yeah. It's a good suffix, but it's not good if it's abused, and it often gets abused. So
let's say, let's master everything else, and then when there's no way to say it, use it.
Right. But a lot of the things that people try to use rach for, there are 1,000 other things, and there are 1,000 other ways to say what they're trying to say in Klingon. Yeah. Okay, that's enough rach, I think, unless somebody has another question. I was just thinking, if you wanted to really, if you needed a noun for beauty, you could maybe get away with saying something like tukom ich, right? Talk about tukom daj ich. They're beautiful. I don't know what the English, this happens to me in Klingon sometimes. I don't know, I can feel what the word means in Klingon, but I can't translate, I can't gloss it. The word format is coming to mind, but that's and setup. But those aren't the right glosses for what I'm meaning. This is how you know you truly speak Klingon, is you need to gloss it the other way. Appearance, configuration, shape, form. So their beautiful form or their beautiful appearance. You could talk about that, or even ondaj ich, their beautiful characteristic or trait. Right? If you really need to talk about the noun, then you can say things like that. Bring in a specific example of where their beauty comes from. Right? Think about those things. Usually, a solution is hiding in plain sight. We already talked about pretty simple, right? You just add it and it's a question. Jajach, ja, Robert, chalk. Mech is so important. What does it mean?
For.
Yeah, it is the verb equivalent of vad, right? So shuchvad, geshuv. I fight for you. So maybe another way you want to say this. Let's say, what do you mean? I'm fighting for you. You can maybe say kahub mech geshuv. Geshuv. I am fighting to defend you. Or huvlij vechub mech geshuv. Your honor, I defend. For, I fight. I fight to defend your honor. And then what's really cool about mech is, in addition to being used this way, you can also put it on a verb that is then followed by another verb, that is then followed by a noun. And it's sort of like you're kind of like telling the purpose of the noun. So let me think about, so we have this word vod, right? Vod means to drill, to bore, right? And the word for a drill is vodmech jan. So it is a device for the purpose of drilling or boring. And then there's a cut version of this where the mech isn't even on there. It says vodjan. So there's a theory that you can even cut off the mech in certain cases and have it just be, whatever. You could do this for a number of things. So you have taj, which means knife. Pet mech taj, a cutting knife. Right. So pet means to cut. Mech means for, or for the purpose of. And then you have taj, which means a knife. Cool. How are we doing? Yeah? Pretty good?
Is it like scissors or?
No, the word for scissors is different. Cha et petwit. That's the word for scissor in Klingon.
Oh, isn't every knife for cutting then?
Yeah, but there's a specific sort of knife that's called a cutting knife.
Okay.
Petmech taj.
I'm guessing it's like the difference between like a filleting knife that's like exquisitely sharp versus a cleaver. I don't know.
Or dirk or something like that. I guess you could use just like a knife for like stabbing. Like there could be a dukmech taj, a stabbing knife. I don't know. So, but anyway, any questions on mech? Really? No questions. Nothing. Okay. I don't believe.
I think the biggest thing for me is just I sometimes will remember the function of a suffix and I'll mix up what type of word it goes on. And so previously I've noticed that I've sometimes put like noun suffixes on verbs and vice versa. And that's just a practice thing.
Yeah. Right? For sure. Yeah. Just gotta keep on practicing.
I've always mixed up the order of the words that I put mech on.
Yeah.
And so whenever I use it, I'm always thinking to the classic cheglu mech jajvam. And so I always try to format my sentence in that manner.
Yeah. Cheglu mech jajvam. Yeah. Today is good for an unknown subject to die. All right, let's talk about type 7 suffixes, which I did not ask y'all to read about, but I'm sure you know that. Y'all have used tach, which is
Continuous.
Continuous.
what's another type 7 aspect suffix?
Lit.
Lit. Yeah. Which means
Continuous to a known stopping point.
yeah, purpose to there we go. I love translating things from Klingon to English because sometimes they come across so weird. We got poop. What is poop?
Finished or completion.
Completed. And then take us on through to the last one, right lit.
Top, which is finished with a purpose.
Yeah, finished. Purpose is that little flame. Okay, so Klingon does not have tense. Let me write that again. Klingon does not have tense. Let me write this again. Klingon does not have tense. Klingon does not have tense.
Can I ask you something? How do you make a past tense in Klingon?
I have
Just kidding.
You already know how to do it. You just say jijach.
I was just kidding.
I know. So Klingon has aspect, which is not the same thing as tense. So in English we have, I go. There's some people who argue that English only has 2 tenses. So I go, I will, I go, I went, I will go. In Klingon, this is jijach. But then we have, we have jijach for I go, but then I'm going. So I'm in the process of going. What's happening here is this is a progressive action. So we're talking not about when something is happening, although that's included in through the am, right? I am going. So the am is in the present tense, right? So that's telling us about that. But the am, the word to be is there itself for another reason. It's telling us about how something is happening over time. Oh, I read somewhere, or somebody said it to me. A good way to think about it is tense is when something is happening, right? It comes from the Latin word tempus, which means time, and which is not. I know that I pronounce that with a huge American accent, but whatever. The Romans are all dead, so they can come get me from the grave as Ginbuchlom. And then aspect sort of gives the shape of time. So how is it happening over time? So I'm going. I'm in the process of going. Jijach ach. Or in Klingon's case, we have not only am I going, but I'm going with a purpose. Jijach le. We also have in English we have the past perfect, right? So I have gone, and so this or is that more? Is that pluperfect? Whatever. Okay. Messed up. Jijach pu, right? Which means I have gone and it is a completed action, right? But this could also be interpreted as this. If you're translated from Klingon into English, you could also translate it as jijach pu, as I will have gone, right? Or even jijach ta, I will have gone with a purpose, and with a clear stopping point. So that's aspect. That's aspect in Klingon. Does that make sense, everybody? What does Klingon not have?
The to be verb.
That intense. Yeah. Let me try to see here. What else we got on the agenda?
Stop sharing your screen, by the way.
Yes, I did.
Okay, I just want to make sure those.
Yep, that was on purpose. Cool. That's all I got. So what's up? Do you want to review some stuff? Do you want to talk more about what we talked about today? That's a lot of information.
I had a question about Nesh.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Nesh. Let's talk about all of the honorific suffixes.
All one of them.
Oh, there are others. They're just not canonical.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
They're oh gosh, I hate the whiteboard. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about honorifics. So type 8, kind of funky. So honorifics, so it's terms for deference. Kind of funky because like type 4, right? Type 4 is causation, right? Type 8 only has one suffix of its type, and it is net, as Lit points out. Really important here to make sure that your vowel quality is right, and you're saying nesh and not nish, because kalech nesh is I see you, Your Honor, but in Power Klingon it gets translated as I'm honored to see you, and then kalech nish is I need to see you, which is a bit different. Yeah, right. Lit, you had a question about.
Can you put bet on this?
Yeah, but it might not mean what you think it means.
Okay.
Give me a phrase of what you're trying to say.
Well, if you say kalech nesh bet, what I would interpret that is to mean is I see not Your Honor, or something to that manner. Because you're negating the nesh versus the see.
It's a tough one. So kalech nesh bet. That might be something more like I'm not honored to see you. But I've never come across something.
I'm sure it'd be insulting either way.
Yeah. It's not. It probably wouldn't be a nice thing to say. But if you were to say kalech bet nesh, then that means something different, right? You're saying,
right,
Your Honor, I don't see it. And when you're translating it, so anyway, nesh means always translated as like Your Honor, because it'll help you get to what degree the formality is important. So if you were meeting, I don't know, who's somebody really important that. Let's say you're meeting the King of Sweden. All right. So you meet the King of Sweden and you say, oh, I'm honored to see you. I'm honored to see you, Emperor of Sweden. That would be an appropriate use of nesh. Where it's not important is stuff like in Western European languages or European languages or I think Arabic also has the formal. It's not a formal. That's the distinction. It's not a formal. So you wouldn't use it with your grandma. You wouldn't use it with your if your grandma speaks Klingon. You wouldn't use it with you wouldn't use it with like your parents or anything. This would be something that you use for people status, people who are above you. Never somebody below you, never a bite esh, means an inferior, always a moch, superior. So again, it helps to use this if you're still in the place where you're translating things in your head and you don't know to what degree you need to honor people. Usually you're not going to need this unless like you're writing a fiction or like you're playing in a fiction, right? Because they're, the King of Sweden does not speak Klingon as far as I know. Maybe one day. So anyway, there are slang suffixes that are not necessary for you to be aware of them, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about them. So beyond just these suffixes we have, some Klingonists have decided that we're going to use some, including myself, to use some made-up suffixes. One of the oldest made-up suffixes, and in fact, I think it was the only made-up suffix for a very long time, is kish. You're not run around telling people I told you this, but anyway, kish. Kish kind of sounds like the English word kiss, does it not? And it means something like lovey, my, or babe, or stuff like that. It's a type 8 suffix because it kind of, like nesh, sort of is used on the verb to convey the relationship between two people. So in the case of nesh, it's an honorific, where one person is talking to another and they want to show deference. Kish, which is this slang suffix that was made up by Captain Crankor and Ishku, means it is used between two people who are romantically involved with one another. It's like babe, baby, etc. The canonical way for you to say something like this, so if you didn't want to get in trouble with with anybody potentially for using a slang suffix, you could maybe say bang oi, or just bang. So kamushcha is so mushcha is the common way of saying love. Kamushcha is the common way of saying I love you. Another good way to say it is kashach chu, I care for you perfectly. And you can either say kamushcha bang or bangwe, I love you, my love, or I love you, my loved one. Or you could maybe say kamushcha kish, I love you, beba. Same thing here. Kashach chu kish, I care for you perfectly, beba. Or kashach chu bangwe, bangoy. Okay. More recently, as in kep-a chapmach javdich, there's another slang honorific suffix, which is coach, and coach is derived from the last suffix in makoch, which is it's like buddy or pal, and so a coach, and it can, as a word alone, coach means partner, and it means like it's the same thing, buddy. So you say tachdak mahum coach, we meet in the bar, buddy. But again, you could also say tachdak mahum ma coach, we meet in the bar, buddy, pal. It's the same thing. But this is kosher, and this will potentially get on somebody's nerves. So, so more. But now you know. And there's a whole Klingon wiki page about it. Called KLI words. So if you want to go look up the history of words that were just made up on the fly, and suffixes even though were made up on the fly, then you can go check it out. What else can I do for y'all? What are you struggling with? What are you thinking about? You want to talk a little bit more about some stuff that we've already talked about, sort of get a clarification on some grammar points, on some usage? What are we doing? Khebo.
Right. I was thinking about the last lesson when we were talking about different formats of talking about time.
Huh?
And I've just reviewed it, so I wrote it down. We had this example when it was 3:34 p.m. And two ways of saying that would be either beginning with rep or closing the expression with rep. And in the first one, when it was rep wat mag waar, why was a vak left out?
I have no idea. And to be honest with you, not a lot of people use that construction. So I would say just use the rep at the end. That's my recommendation to you, is to use the rep at the end, because not a lot of people use that one where the rep comes at the beginning.
Okay, right.
It's like, yeah. A little confusing, but because I'm a little hesitant to tell you this is the way it is, and that because some person might use that, and that's okay, and it's correct. It's just that's not the way most people are going to say that. Yeah, they're going to say, if we're talking about 3:34 in the afternoon, then it's wat mag. I got to do the thing. Wat mag shochvat, wedge mag losrep, right? Okay. Yeah. Any more questions on time and stuff, or anything else, really?
What is the most common way to ask about the time? Is it the adlor koilupo? Is it the most common?
Yeah, it definitely is. But then another way to say it, and this is also very common, is repieper. So label
Yeah,
that.
we took it. I just wondered which one was the most.
Yeah, it's definitely arlor khulupu. Yeah, that's definitely the most common way, I would say.
And the most common way of answering would be with the construction of koilupo.
Depends, is because the khulupu is only works when you're literally on the. I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 3 o'clock, or it's just happened, right? Technically, you could be at 3:59 and it's still been heard 3 times, right? Or 15 times. So to avoid confusion about it's literally about to be 4, you could do one of 2 things. You could use the adverbial cloche, which means almost. So cloche wat mag javlor khulupu. It's almost been heard 14 times. Or you could just say kash, it is happening. So there's that word again, kash, and then say the hour, right? So kash wat mag vag mag goed rep. So 3:59 is happening.
And I have another question. How do you say it's hot, it's cold? Like meaning
Tuj.
just tuj, nothing more?
Same thing for it's raining. Shish. It's just the verb. Tuj. Some people prefer, because they want that it there, they might say tuj mood. The atmosphere, the weather is hot. Tuj mood. But tuj is fine. Tuj. Shish, beer. Beer. Ooh, beer. Tuj. Tuj cool, Jai. Fucking hot. Beer, Jai. Shish. It's raining. It's hailing.
Since they mentioned atmosphere, I'm in Florida, so we're getting that dust plume, and I was trying so hard to figure out how to say that, and the best construction I could think of, and it's probably wrong, would be something like this, which I believe would literally mean there is dirt in the atmosphere.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. There's dirt in the atmosphere. Yeah, there's dirt in the there's dirt in the air. Yeah.
Is that a proper use of tulu?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's also a good use of doc because it's literally, I mean, it's literally, it's a physical thing that's there. Also consider the use of the word rauvet. Rauvet means air. Klingon actually has two words for air. And then we also have mood, which sometimes can kind of take the role of air. I mean, mood is kind of like the, yeah, it's like the atmosphere. Yeah. I was going to say something and then I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, it's kind of, it can kind of be used in some ways, like where we might use air. But rauvet is the most common word for air because lie is like, so rauvet is like the everyday word for air, and lie is like the scientific term, if that makes any sense. Like it's almost like arrow, you know, that the prefix arrow, whatever.
Okay. So, yeah. Awesome.
Dune. Madge.
Sorry, can you say it again about the lie?
Lie is like a technical term for air. That's frequently used in like scientific or technical. Like the word for aeronautics is lilang, or aerospace aeronautics, it's lilang. So lie is air, lang is trip. So lilang is air trip, but it's the name for aeronautics in Klingon. Cool. If y'all don't have any more questions, I think we can call it quits for today. And I think that's the first time we've actually ended on time. I will message y'all with some more Klingon stuff. I think now that we've kind of done we haven't done the qualifying suffixes for verbs yet, but I think we can go over them, and I'm sure y'all know them. So make sure to go over the qualifying suffixes. I'll make a mental note to remind y'all in an email. It's really chill. It's the same thing as in the noun qualifying suffixes. It's just for verbs. We might have gone over them actually. Whatever, we'll go over them again. And then I think now that we've kind of gone through a lot of the dictionary, I think we should start moving into like how to actually use everyday Klingon, because I think that's stuff that's not in the dictionary that you can't get out of the book, that a lot of beginners are missing. Yeah, Thiago, did you have something to say?
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Because as you're talking about how to talk about the weather, I was thinking, probably talk about how to talk about the weather in Klingon. That's a good idea. Cool. And we could also talk about shimyons. So I'll also include a link to the shimyon converter, and we can talk about how to talk about the temperature in Klingon.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's a really fun new thing that we have, y'all.
This is so ominous.
Oh, it's so much fun. You know what's so great about shimyons is that my fiance is Canadian. I'm American. So she had just gotten used to me like using Fahrenheit, and then shimyon. We got revealed information about shimyons, and I like learned it in a day. And I'm not that bad with Celsius. I like if she tells me it's like 25 in Quebec, I'm like, oh, that's a really nice day, you know. I don't like do conversions in my head, but I kind of have like, you know, points where I know, you know, oh, that's a nice day, oh, that's a little too hot. But I don't like use it on a regular basis. But then shimyons came out, and like I learned it in a week, and I was like having so much fun with it. And she was just like getting on my case for like not wanting to learn any of the systems that the rest of the world uses, but sticking to, you know, Fahrenheit and shimyon. So
You basically can translate in your head when you can tell, without checking the converter, you just know that.
Yeah. Right now, today's a little hot. I'd say it's like maybe 205. Let me check. So I'm gonna test to see how good I am at just telling how many shimeons it is. So it's 88 Fahrenheit in Atlanta. Let's see, how much is that in Celsius? So in Celsius, that's 31. All right. So let me go to the Shimeon converter on whole ampage, and I'll send y'all the link to that. So it's 88. Oh, 209. I'm 4 Shimeon off, but which is a lot of Shimeons. Shimeons are pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.